following episode of Dad vs. Daughter was made possible by a contribution from Tasty Minstrel Games. Orléans from Tasty Minstrel Games is a worker placement with bag building. We are going to be drawing our workers out of a bag and sending them to places on our boards or other buildings that we may have built during the game. We're going to be using those actions to get more workers or to move our merchant around the French countryside, where he's going to be able to collect certain things such as wine, cheese, wool, wheat, that sort of thing. But we also have events that we have to deal with. We don't want to be found having to pay taxes when we have no money. We do not want to suffer the bad things of torture either. So let's see what Dad's game group thinks of it, as Orléans is our game of the week. I have the game set up for 4 players. So you'll see that the main board is divided into 2 sections. You have basically your countryside in France, as well as kind of your development board over here. Now let's talk about the countryside. You can see that we've got all sorts of goods scattered around there. So each player is going to start with their merchant in the city of Orléans. And you're going to be traveling through the various roadways and waterways in order to get from city to city. You're going to be able to collect these goods as you go along. You're also going to be building trade stations in these cities, and a city can only have 1 trade station except for the city of Orléans. Each player can build there. But in all the rest of them, if you're the first player and you build a trade station, then no one else can build there. So you're going to be traveling around collecting those goods. You're going to use those goods at the end of the game for victory points. And the main board up here has a legend. So you have linens, you have wool, you have money, wine, cheese, and wheat. And you're also going to get victory points based on the number of trade houses or trade stations that you have, plus the number of citizens that you pick up. And these are citizens, and I'll talk about how you can get those. And you're going to multiply that by the number of development points. So you'll see we have a development track here, and as you proceed along the development track, your development level is going to go up. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and all the way up to 6. Each player is going to start with their own board. They'll have a bag of their color, and they're going to have 4 workers to begin with. So they're going to have a tradesman, a boatsman, a farmer, and a trader. They will also start with 5 money. Now, by assigning their workers to other areas on their board, they are going to be able to accumulate more workers that they're going to be able to put in their bag. So you can see here, if you go to the farmhouse, if you send your boatsman and your craftsman, then they will give you a farmer. If you go to the village and you send your boatsman, a farmer, and your craftsman, you're going to be able to take either another boatsman, another craftsman, or a trader. If you go to the university and you send a farmer, a craftsman, and a trader, then you will be able to get a scholar. If you send a farmer, a boatsman, and a trader to the castle, you'll get a knight. If you go to the monastery and send a scholar and a trader, you'll get a monk. And now the monks are kind of wild because, and I don't mean that they're partying in the abbeys, making their wine and getting their groove on. The monks can be used to substitute for any of your other workers. And then the top of the player board here, we have our ways that we're going to be able to move around that French countryside. We move along the waterways with our ship, with a farmer, a boatsman, and a knight. We move along the roads in a wagon with a farmer, a trader, and a knight. And we can build guild halls with a farmer, a craftsman, and a knight. Now I do want to point out that the 4 that you start with have your player color on the bottom. This is to distinguish these from any of the other players or any of the other workers that you will accumulate and put in your bag. And these are important because these can never go to the beneficial deeds board, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and they cannot be lost to plague which is one of the events, and I'll talk about that in a minute as well. So let's discuss this side of the main board here. So at the top, we have our monks, which I had mentioned we get in the monastery. Next, we have our farmers. Now, whenever you take a farmer, you will move your cube along the census tract. You'll be able to collect goods from wherever you're at when you go there. So I collect my first farmer, then I will get a wheat. As I travel along, I'll be able to get cheese, wine, linen, and brocade. The census is part of the normal round where we're going to look to see who is in the lead on the census board. If you're in the lead by yourself, you're going to get a coin. If you are in last place by yourself, you will have to pay a coin to the bank. Next, we have our craftsmen. Now, the craftsman will show that you can never use a technology to replace a monk. So whenever we advance on the craftsman track, we get this little technology token, and we can place this in one of our places, either our buildings or on the board, to replace one of the spots where we need workers. Now, the board will also show that the first one you take must replace a farmer. So if I look down here to my board, let's just say that I decide that I want to replace the farmer here for the castle. Now all I would need is a boatsman and a trader in order to get a knight. Now this is going to stay there for the rest of the game. You can't move it. Next we have our traders. Now when we advance along the trade track, we will be able to basically get better, more evolved buildings. So the first time we go, we can get a level 1 building, and then all the rest of the times we can either get a level 1 or a level 2. Next, we have our boatsmen. Now, when we advance along the boatsman track, we're going to get money. So here we'll get 2 coins, 3 coins, 4 coins, 5 coins, and then if we make it all the way to the end, we'll be able to collect a citizen. The knights will allow us to draw more workers out of our bag on each turn. Now, we start with 4, and I showed you when we looked at our player board, we had our 4 starting workers in our market area. But as we progress along here, we'll be able to pull 5 workers, 6 workers, 7 workers. This spot, you don't actually pull any more workers, but you'll get a citizen. And then if you make it all the way to the end, you'll be pulling 8 workers per round. Here we have the scholars, and the scholars will advance us along this development track. So you'll see we can move 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4, 5, and 6. So as we move our cube along the development track, if we are the first one to reach here, we will be able to take that citizen, and that will come off the board. This will show that now we're in the second level of development. When we make it here, we'll get 3 coins, level 3 development, 4 coins, level 4 development, another citizen, and so on. The town hall section on our individual player boards actually will allow us to send some of our workers to the beneficial deeds board. Basically, this is kind of a way to thin out our bag. This is the beneficial deeds board. So when we send our workers here, they are there for the rest of the game. We do not draw them back from here. We also cannot remove them from here. You're going to get certain benefits by going here. So this top part, which says the building of the city wall, you'll notice that it takes 3 knights, a trader, 3 farmers, and 3 craftsmen. Now, if you place the last worker in any of these areas, you'll be able to collect a citizen for that area. But if you just send 1 worker here, doesn't matter which one, then you will get benefits. So if you send 1 farmer here, you're going to get 1 coin. If you happen to send 2 farmers here, or a farmer and a trader, or any combination, you'll get a coin for each one of those. And then you'll notice that we have different ones here. We have the papal conclave. You send 2 monks and a knight, you'll get a citizen. If you're the last one there, and each time you go, you're going to get 3 money. The defeating the plague, you're going to get 2 money. Astronomy, you'll get 1 coin. The funding of the Boatsman Guild, you'll see it takes 3 boatsmen and a scholar. You'll get a coin. The building of the cathedral will get you 2 coins. The peace treaty will get you 2. And the canalization will get you either a money or a development point. And this is probably the main way that you're going to be able to collect citizens. And this is kind of a, I don't know, I won't call it a pressure luck, but you're going to be watching what other players are doing on their turn. If you see that they're sending their workers to the town hall, you're going to see which workers they're going to be sending, because that'll give you an idea of where they're going here, because you want to be the last one so you get that citizen, because that's really going to help you with your victory points at the end of the game. There's another way you can get one of the citizens, and that is if you end the game and you have more trade stations than anyone else, then you get one extra citizen. I mentioned that when you advance along the trader track, you're going to be able to acquire buildings. Now, when you make it to the first spot, you are going to be able to pick any building you want from the level 1 stack. And there are various buildings here that you're going to be able to do. For instance, the herb garden will say that your boatsman can basically equal one of these characters, either your farmer, your trader, or your craftsman. The winery will get you will produce a wine, and based on you sending these workers there. You've got your hay rack, so send a farmer there, get a wheat. So this is a way that you can collect certain other goods. Let's turn these around here. You send 2 of your farmers and get a cheese. The brewery is going to get you some money. Shipping will advance you along the development track. You've got the hospital, the bathhouse, the library. So they're going to provide benefits and basically more places that you can go. Now, those were the level 1s. There is a smaller stack for the level 2s. And they basically do the same thing, except these are a little bit more powerful here. You can pay up to 3 money and advance along the development track. Here, you can go and a trade house will produce money. You've got your horse wagon. So instead of normally your wagon will cost you a farmer, a trader, and a knight, here you basically have eliminated needing that farmer. You've got your cellar here, your laboratory, which will produce a technology, and this is very helpful. Your school, kind of like the herb garden I showed you, you can use one of your scholars to replace one of those workers, and then your gunpowder tower, which will allow you to send more workers to the beneficial deeds board. So when you are the first player, you will have the shield token, so that will show your first player, and that only really comes into play when you are resolving actions, because as you are pulling your workers out of your bag and placing them on your board or your other buildings, everybody's going to be doing that simultaneously. The only time that the first player marker really comes in is when you resolve your actions. So if I want to build a guild hall and we have multiple people in the same city that is not Orléans, then whoever chooses that action first will be able to build that first, and then the other person will not be able to. A couple other things where that comes in is the town hall, when you're placing on the beneficial deeds board, based on the turn order as you're doing your actions, that will determine who gets to place theirs first. So you go around and you're doing these actions, so you do them one at a time. So let's say the first time it was my turn, I decided I wanted to build the guild hall, and I had the requisite number of workers there. Then I would do that first. Someone else who has town hall, and I may have that as well, sends theirs to the town hall. You keep going around until everybody passes, basically. Now, what you do at the start of every turn, whoever is the first player will take one of these event tiles. Now, I'll show you there is a little different color. You're going to shuffle these up. There's 18, and this is the timer of the game. So each round, you're going to be flipping one of these. Now, you'll notice this one has a white back. This one has kind of a tan back. The white one is set like this to show you that this is the first one that you use. So this is always going to be starting with pilgrimage. Now, there are several different events, including plague and taxes and so forth. Pilgrimage basically says you cannot recruit any monks on that turn. So first turn, you will not be able to go to the monastery and recruit a monk. Now, you can actually send workers there to the monastery. You just will not be able to perform that action. But you would have your workers there on your next turn, then you could do that. So once these events come to pass and it is the end of the start of the next round, you would flip the next one up, and as it happens, this is taxes. So then everyone will be dealing with paying taxes. So for every 3 goods that you have to pay a coin. So that's going to keep dwindling down over the course of the game. Now there are 3 pilgrimages, 3 plagues, which plague is kind of bad because you're going to draw a tile out of your bag, and if it is not one of your starting guys, meaning that it doesn't have your starting color on the bottom, then you lose that worker and he goes back to the board. Taxes I just talked about. You have trading day. There's 3 of those. There's actually 3 of every one of the events. On trading day, you're going to get a coin for every trading station that you have over here on the countryside board. You have income, where you're going to get a number of coins equal to your development status. So if you're, say, here, then when that comes up, you're going to get 3 coins. Or if you're past the 4, you'll get 4 coins. And then finally, we have harvest, which means you have to pay a food, which a food is either a grain, cheese, or wine. You return it to the board, or you pay 5 gold. And anytime that you cannot fulfill what the event is, you have to suffer torture. Now, torture is, like it sounds, not a good thing. So every time that you have to pay something and you can't, then you basically have to give stuff up in order to pay that. That's your torture. And that can come in the form of trading stations, your other workers, not your starting workers. You can lose development points, and that's the only thing you're actually going to get back. You could gain your development points back, but anything else you lose permanently. So if I lost a trading station, it gets put in the box and that's out of the game. Same with any of the goods tiles or your buildings, what they call the place tiles, or your technology tiles. So you really don't want to undergo torture if you can help it at all. So after you play through these 18 rounds, you're going to count up your victory points. And like I said, it tells you right up at the top, each good is worth a certain number. So basically from bottom to top here, these will get you more expensive or get you more victory points, whereas like the wheat will only get you 1. The brokout actually gives you 5 victory points. And then you also want the citizens. So the one thing I didn't mention is when the round is over, you take all of the tokens off your board that when you were doing the action, you basically just take them off of there to show that you've done that action, and then you put them back in your bag and they are available to draw again. Now on the bottom of your player board here, right here, you'll see it says market, and you have a slot for 8 workers. So you can keep workers down here and not place them, but you can only have up to 8. Now, you can place workers, like I said, in various areas on your board. Just put these guys there to free up spaces. And whenever you decide that you want to do that action, that's when you would take these off and put them back in your bag. Now, if you only have 4 workers, there's no point in putting them in your bag because you're always going to be drawing a minimum of 4 out. And that, like I said, is determined on your night track. Everybody starts on 4, and you can go all the way up to 8. So the most you would ever be able to pull out is 8. And that is how you play Orléans. So now let's get to what Dad's group thinks. So we've played this game quite a bit in our normal weekly game group. And everyone loves it. Nobody has had, I don't think, any negatives to say about this game. We love the gameplay. We love the bag building aspect of getting your workers. We love the worker placement aspect. The fact that there are so many different strategies that you can employ to try to win the game, I think is awesome. And then, of course, there are several expansions. The big box expansion gives you, I think, 5 expansions in there. And then there's the, I think it's the intrigue expansion that adds more as well. So there's tons of replayability on this. You never know where these goods are going to be because you're going to take all the goods, you're going to shuffle them up, then you're going to place them on there. So that's always going to be different. You know, because you're pulling workers at random from your bag, that is, you know, going to make your turns different every time too. So that is Orléans. Like I said, everybody that I've played this game with loves it. I love it. It is one of my top games of the year, and it may, just may, make it into my #1 slot. You're going to have to check our year-end show to find out where exactly it ends up. But Like I said, I highly recommend it. If you don't own it, go out and get a copy, and we will catch you guys next time. If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.